Hey everybody, it's Alec here, and we're back at it again with another episode of the Smashing Brands podcast. And today I am joined by
Irina Alexander.
Irina Alexander. Thank you so much for being on the show, and let's have an awesome, inspiring conversation, shall we?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. So, the first question I always like to ask is, how do you spend your time on planet Earth?
Living, not just existing.
Okay.
I love life and I love traveling. I love dancing and I also love what I do, which is run a neuroscience-based training company for high stress professionals.
Understood. So, a neuroscience training company for high-stressed professionals. Well, let's take it back to a point where you were really stressed out and you needed to find tools and strategies in order to support yourself, which I'm sure was some inspiration around starting your business, right?
Yes and no, actually. I went through a burnout.
Yep.
So I didn't even know that I was experiencing burnout until I
Mhm.
was pretty much on my knees and I was like, I am done and I don't want to run business anymore.
Yeah.
So for me, it took a really deep dive into, we all have stress, everyday stress. Now it's in the hustle culture, it's almost normal.
Yeah.
So I didn't make a big deal of it until it was a little bit too late.
So what does that look like when it's a little too late?
It's for me personally, right?
Yeah.
It was when you don't experience joy from life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what you do or what you have, there is no joy. It's like day to day, you're like robot and you just in a have to mode. And every single call, every single email, you roll your eyes and like, oh no, what now? Again.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yes.
How do we get ourselves to that point?
How do we get there?
Yeah, do we just neglect ourselves every single day, don't take accountability for what we want? Like, how do most people find themselves in that position?
Uh, that's a good question. I think there is the pressure from outside, the pressure that we put on ourselves, the mentality of have to do more. Nothing is ever good enough. We always striving for more.
Hmm.
And don't listen into ourselves. Don't listen to our body. Don't listen what's happening. Just numbing yourself. I think that's the big one also is not paying attention to the signs because signs are always there. It's just, are we seeing them? Are we looking? Are we hearing? Are we stopping long enough to listen to ourselves and what's happening? Or even to our friends and loved ones. Are we paying attention to what's happening with them, to them, to actually saying, hey, how are you doing? How are you really doing?
Yeah, for sure. So, how did you go from being burned out to starting a business helping other people that are burned out?
Mm-hmm. So I went through burnout. I stepped away from the business. I literally called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm coming home. And she was like, What do you mean? Who died? Right?
And what was the business, by the way?
It was a heating air conditioning company.
Okay.
It was HVAC business. And I haven't been home by that time in about 9 years.
Oh,
So when
wow.
I called and I told her I'm coming home, literally she thought somebody died.
Yeah.
And so I went home, I spent there a few weeks, and when I came back, I just realized that I don't want to do business anymore. I sold my business and I dived deep into personal development and growth. And it was like, okay, I need to get my head straight.
Yeah.
And so I invested a lot of time and money into getting my head straight
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then I traveled So I studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. That was my first step. And
Yeah.
then I traveled for about a year to figuring out how people implement it. And it's a lot of times it's in a therapy,
Mm-hmm.
coaching, but nobody was implementing it with business owners.
Mm.
It was like, what's going on? Like how we have such a powerful tools, but there is nothing really designed for business owners.
Yeah. Who
One
is it
day,
designed for?
like I said, it's a lot of times for coaching and therapy, or it's just tools and techniques that are weaved into everything, or sales, but they're not, it was not one big thing. It's just a little bit sprinkled here and there.
There
But
wasn't
it
like a
was,
cohesive program that spoke
yes.
about how to integrate NLP into not just everyday life, but everyday like business life.
Yeah, well, and I also, it's still life. There is no life in business. There is life with a business in it. Like,
Correct. Yeah.
doesn't matter how you want to separate your business life. It's really, I don't know a single person who actually done that. And so one day, a friend of mine, we were sitting in the country club, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I do that? And he was like, why don't you? And we stood up, went to a manager of a country club and reserved a room. And 2 months later was my first training where I invited business owners. And that's how it started. So it wasn't a plan. I wasn't planning on doing that. It was truly a passion project because I didn't want people to go through what I went, and I
Yeah.
had tools to help them.
Fantastic. That's kind of what I was looking for with one of my initial questions. Like, how did a certain situation lead you into where you are now? So that's very clear. So at that first workshop, what were you teaching? And how does that compare to what you're teaching now?
It was NLPs that I've learned, neuro-linguistic programming and implementation to business because everything I was given all the same tools, but
Hmm.
in how to implement it in day-to-day business life and personal life. That
Yeah.
was my first workshop. It was only 4 people, each paid, I think, about just $2,000 to $3,000. So that was my very first one. And like I said, never planned on doing that.
Hmm.
And what it turned into the whole academy now, where we worked with government entities and first responders. Once
Yeah.
again, never even planned,
Yeah.
but you never know. One of the got invited to speak at one of the conferences, got introduced to one of the retired first responders who already trains first responders, and we were asked to review their communication curriculum.
Hmm.
And from that conversation, after knowing what we do, he said, you should create your own program. And
Mm.
I was, and so we created our own program, got certified, nationally certified to give continuing education hours for first responders. And that's how it started. So we literally were invited. Somebody saw potential, said, first responders, can you use that? Do it. And I was like, oh, why not?
Who was this person that told you to go after that segment?
It was a retired police officer who has his own company consulting agency.
I see.
So it was just uh, being at the right place at the right time and saying
Yeah.
yes to an opportunity. That's all it was. And it was heartwarming to see that somebody is believing in you, seeing your product and saying that can make a difference.
Yeah. For sure. So is that who you primarily work with now, government officials and first responders?
So yes, we have several legs of business. One of them is first responders. The other one is corporate because like they say, hey, you can deal with SWAT teams, you can deal with stress
Yeah.
professionals in corporate world. So
Yeah.
corporate, first responders, and also educational system.
Got it. Do you work with like business owners as well, or has it just primarily been what you just spoke about?
I do have a private mentorship where I work with business owners, but it's no longer a training program. It's a one-on-one, usually a couple times a month, where I help, and it's a mix of mindset and strategies. So it's not pure NLP no more. It's just like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. I think I've done most of the mistakes that small business owners can make.
Yeah,
Please learn from me versus do it yourself. I can
yeah,
help. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, what area of your business right now are you most excited about?
we are, well, we are very close to getting a contract with one of the very large corporations that is um, they are in American market, but it's a Dutch company,
Hmm.
and they want to invest in first responders. So they want to sponsor to be known in the community as supporting first responders through our
Oh,
program, as well
interesting.
as bringing our program into the corporate world to train their leadership.
Mm.
So it's a beautiful synergy, kind of giving us access to both. So I am extremely excited. Literally been writing email and trying to find a date to put on a calendar for a follow-up Zoom call in the next steps to proceed. So keep fingers crossed, send us good
Yeah,
energy that that's
yeah.
gonna go through, and it's gonna be a very big one for us and very meaningful in many ways.
Who is us?
I have myself and as of, gosh, year just over a year ago, I brought in a business partner, my best friend. So we are doing it together, running company together.
Nice. So, what is the value that it's a him, right? Is that what you said?
She.
She. So, what so I know there's a lot of people that I talk to, especially coaches, they just run their own coaching business. It's just them. What was the value in this lady to want her to be a business partner with you?
Well, we started as we met it during the NLP training a few years ago, and
Yeah,
then she was doing a training and working with ladies in San Antonio, which is fairly close, about 100 miles away from Austin. So I was focusing business owners in Austin. She was doing it in San Antonio, yet we were supporting each other.
yeah,
And then we were like, why don't we do it together? And so we started supporting, because when you have a 7 day long training program and you just the only one talking and training, that's a lot. When it's
like
two
Tony
of you, it's
Robbins.
kind of exactly. I mean, Tony Robbins started as NLP actually, and then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was prohibited to use that word.
Why?
Uh, so it was just two of us, and she is very strong in business development and relationship. I'm more of a business brain, strategy, systems and processes and numbers person, and she's more of a people person and business development. So
Yeah,
it's a beautiful energy and synergy, and it's taught both of us a lot to overcome the stigma of women working together and not competing but actually lifting each other. So we've grown so much by working together.
yeah, yeah. That's fantastic because it can be really hard to find the right co-founder, like, or business partner. Like, that's really challenging for a lot of people. Like, I've had businesses in the past where I've wanted to have a co-founder or a business partner, and it's just been really challenging. Like, somebody has to provide what you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a challenge. Secondly, there has to be that strong level of trust built and all of that. And so I think it's a part of your story, Arena. It's like you started this business based on your own experience. You saw a need in the market, and then like the right things come together. Things seem to flow. I mean, I don't know your entire life,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but do you kind of feel like that? You just sort of just like let go, embrace, and then like the right people and the right opportunities show up? Or what advice could you give around that instead of people trying to force and hurry all
Mm-hmm.
the time?
Well, when you are in the moment, sometimes you don't see it. Like later on, you look back, it's like, oh, if it wasn't for the burnout, if it wasn't for me going and studying NLP, like all of that, when you go through it, you don't always see the big picture. But when you zoom out or look back,
Yeah.
that's when I think you learn to appreciate and realize that everything happens for a reason. And so just having that in mind when you're going through something, and also saying yes to opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I've ended up being in a very powerful rooms with a lot of powerful people by simply saying yes to it. Like I didn't even know. Like I was in New York last year and got invited to some kind of networking event. I said yes to. And I end up in a room not just with millionaires, but with the billionaires. And I was like, oh, okay. And then got invited to their circle. And I've never even thought of it. It was just in saying yes to opportunities and let it go, because sometimes we have that picture, we think we know how it's supposed to go, knowing
Yeah.
what you want, but letting go of how it's supposed to happen. And it's
Yeah.
extremely hard for a lot of business owners because we are control freaks. We want to control everything.
Hmm.
And so having that behavior flexibility of letting it go and appreciating, and at the same time saying yes to opportunities.
For sure. So how are you right now using NLP and what you teach in your life? Like what are the like maybe the habits or routines, the strategies?
So NLP is such a big umbrella for a lot of things. It
Yeah.
includes hypnosis, it includes language,
Yeah.
it includes the programming
Yeah.
of the mind, linguistic patterns, and so on. So there's a lot of things. First and foremost, it's also a part of me. Like I am a living, breathing, because I've been teaching for so long. I don't even realize. And sometimes people say, well, that's what you do. And I was like, it's just how I talk, because this is what I do. So, but mainly, one of the first things is it gives you perspective on your patterns. We all have patterns, but
Hmm.
being able to recognize it, or once again, pause, pull back, and recognizing, hey, this is triggering me. I don't like that. This is
Yeah.
my pattern. I think this is one of the biggest, um, I guess, impact it created. Yes, you can change it, but you cannot change things you're not aware of. But
Yeah.
being self-aware, that's huge.
Hmm.
Knowing that you are not perfect. And yes, sometimes certain tonalities, certain the way people look at me or I look, it can trigger, or I have a certain reaction and
Yeah.
say, okay, for what purpose it's happening, right? And things like that. So I think that is the one of the biggest is self-awareness, because
For
that's all
sure.
where it all starts.
So what are some of speaking of being more self-aware, what were some of the patterns, let's say, that you've recognized over the last few years in yourself that you've had to put an end to?
Great question. Um, always think I'm right.
Uh-huh.
uh, the judgment, I used to be extremely judgmental. So, and when you have that immediate opinion about something or somebody,
Yeah.
and when you're strongly attached to that opinion, it doesn't let you room to get to know what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, like simply opening my heart to be kind and nice to people. I
Uh-huh.
was so um, cynical and money driven that I start seeing people as a dollar signs.
Yeah. So how do you break
And
that pattern?
well, it took for me a burnout to
Okay.
realize what's more important and valuable. The brand clothes and all of that, it was all great, but deep down, I was miserable. I was wearing a mask every single day. And so it took me, like I said, to my knees to realize that I am absolutely unhappy. I was drinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
I was working too much
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And like I said, seeing people as not for who they are, but what they can do for me and so on. So that was, I think, the patterns that were the most meaningful and made the most difference when I stopped that. But it took me opening my heart and realizing that I'm also a human being and I need to acknowledge what I feel.
Sure. So when did you go through burnout? How long ago was this?
18, 19. So 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay. So let's say like over the last few years, this can be in business or life or whatever it might be, any area of your life. What do you feel like has been like somewhat of a major what's the word I'm looking for here? What has been like a major life obstacle that you've had to overcome?
The major life obstacle.
Like, was there any circumstance, any situation that you went through, or maybe are currently going through that has been difficult that you've worked to, that you faced that you've already overcome or are working to overcome?
There is. I'm still going through it, and like one of my mentors said, like, is it a wound or is it a scar? It's still a wound, so I'm not quite ready to put it out there. I need it to be a scar
Yeah.
to be able to fully share. And like I said, once I get on the other side, I think I'll probably willing, and I'm just being honest,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
more open to share that. But it's definitely a mix of the personal stuff. Um, so that is the biggest, I think, one. Just I'm not quite ready to share it. I apologize for that.
No, all good. Is there anything that you can share that is maybe a scar now?
What is this car now? I think the challenging part was, I think, in the business, in a transition
Mm-hmm.
when you are the old is no longer working. I had one workshop and I had over, I think, 50% of the conversion rate, which is extremely good for a workshop when people, do the events and then they upsell to the training. And I was like, amazing. I'm going to do those events. And the next 3 or 4 were zero.
Hmm.
And you start having self-doubt, right? You have that internal talk. I'm not good enough. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
So trying to figure out and analyze. And it's like, it's not like back to back, right? Within a few days, it's over several months. So when you go to those months of no conversion, so you put an event, you're putting people in the room, you're delivering, and everybody say, it's amazing, it's life-changing, yet people are not signing up for the next level. You start self-doubting, right? Like, what am I doing wrong? Should I even do that? So I think that was a very tough period of time where I started questioning, should I even be doing that?
So why? Why did it happen? How do you go from a like a 50% conversion rate to a 0% conversion rate? Like, why do you think those results were what they were?
Good question. I mean, it took me a while to figure out why is it happening, right?
Yeah.
So there was I think several factors. So first one, I had a lot of people in the room who was, I would say, warm audience, even though they were not friends or anything. They knew me for a very long time
Okay.
from previous business or even way before I started the business. So I was on their radars. They might be just Facebook friends that, I don't even know how I know them, but they were still there. Somehow they were seeing me.
Yeah.
So the other one, so it was a warmer audience. The
Hmm.
other workshops, I was promoting demystifying manipulation and sales. So I was promoting a lot of sales. What I realized that people who are broke and don't have money, don't know how to sell, were taking those courses. So it was not the right people in room.
Hmm.
They want to, but they don't have money
Yeah.
to buy it. So it was the messaging, the marketing, uh, putting the right people in a room.
Hmm.
I had one workshop where it's just parents with their kids showed up. While they received tremendous value, I'm not a family counseling or whatever it is. Will it help relationship? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's just the mix of a lot of things, and majority is doesn't matter how great your product is if you're not promoting to the right audience or you don't have the right people. Yes, they can refer you to other people and all of that, but it's a way longer process. I love to say, like, we have retirement communities here, and doesn't matter how great of a product you have, if you sell in surfboards and you go into advertise it to a retirement community, most likely you won't get many sales of any, because it's not your audience. So
Yeah.
being very, very clear of not only who your audience is, but also put it in a room, make sure that it's not just age, right? And where they work. So there's just so many factors that you have to get that avatar nailed down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some great insight. There's this quote that sticks out at me, which is you're not asking the wrong questions, you're talking to the wrong people.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I've heard somewhere is there is no wrong time of selling because people are like, well, it's Christmas time, people don't buy in this time or whatever. It's Mother's Day, nobody's gonna come. I was like, well, there is no wrong times, there is just wrong sales tactics. People buy all the time. But also one of the things for me is people were oversold during COVID period and stuff like that. People got so oversold. So I feel like for the higher ticket items, the selling process is getting longer.
Hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that too I've had multiple offers over the years, but yeah, I've realized that now more than ever, especially if you're selling via social media, we're in like a trust recession right now where there's not a lot of trust built, right? So
Yep.
it's about developing that trust over a certain amount of time. That can be talking to them on multiple occasions. It could be them watching 7 hours of your YouTube channel. That's another statistic, all that. But yeah, I'm with you on that. So you spoke about how, hey, you lack conversions because you weren't finding you didn't have the right people and not the
Mhm.
right audience. So I want to know now, like when you do a workshop, if you still do that style of workshop, like who is your ideal clients?
So we don't do workshops anymore. We moved from that model and we moved to always being a guest speaker. So we are utilizing other people's stages.
How
That
come?
is became a new strategy, right? Instead of creating your own events and putting your own events, and usually they're very, very cost heavy
Hmm.
upfront, right? It's you renting a event
Yeah.
space, food, whatever, you name it.
Hmm.
So we started doing a lot of, well, the strategy was if you want us to speak for free, right? It's can be like a small 30-minute workshop or something like that, or we can waive our speaking fee if we are allowed to pitch or at least mention something. And so we were applying for to being a speaker at different events anywhere and everywhere. So that is became a new strategy. Instead of putting our own events and investing a lot of money, we turned into where can we go and speak and provide our message.
Interesting. So how are you currently getting speaking gigs then?
So it's been now long enough. So some of them is word of mouth, right? We spoke somewhere, we did that 30-minute workshop or something like that. It's a networking event, guest speaker. And for there, somebody saw us in the audience and then they reach out. So
Uh-huh.
it's been that, but that worked well for us. And also industry specific speaking events, conferences. We apply to speak at those as well.
And how is that going?
Um, 50-50. I mean, we got some paid opportunities for sure. Quite a few. Got some free ones where we're allowed to pitch. We actually got one with Texas State Auditors Conference that is coming in August. So even through the government bids, we got one.
Yeah.
So it's and also a lot of times like I went to London in October for the business expo to be a to be on a panel. So and just putting it out there and utilizing everything as in social media. Right? I personally don't like to create reels or anything, but every time I get to speak somewhere, making sure that either somebody's recording us
Yeah.
or
That's
we hiring somebody to record us and then utilizing the content because I know social media is extremely important and at the same time I'm so very lazy to to do
yeah.
that. So that's another way of you know, people might not comment, might not like, but I still had people in real life through my just social life coming to me and saying, hey, we need a speaker at work. Can I give you your information?
Nice. Yeah, and I think it's easier to find opportunities like that support your business when you can work with so many different types of people, right? Because you're like government officials, first responders, professionals, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So it's like it's a lot easier to find. I'm not saying it's easy to get opportunities, but it's easy to find opportunities where you can speak to all these different crowds and still gain value out of the experience. As
Yeah.
opposed to if you were like extremely niche and you only work with like a certain demographic of people, then it might be more challenging.
I think it's both because when you are too broad, like you're for everybody and nobody at the same time.
Yeah,
So, and when you're very niche, you know exactly where to go. So we
true.
still, I think it can be double-edged sword in a way that, because if you're so unique and your product is so unique, people want you because there is not a lot of people who are offering that.
About that thing. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's
So
cool.
it's,
So I have one last question for you, Irina. So this one's a little deep, okay, but I'm sure you'll crush it. Let's say it's the end of your life. You've done
Mhm.
everything that you've wanted to do. However, there's nothing to show for it. There's no event replays, there's no podcast, there's no books, there's nothing. But you have a speakerphone and you can talk to the entire world and share three things that you know to be true about the world around you. What are those things?
Wow. To me, there is only one truth, and everything is possible. I truly believe that everything is possible. We are more than our physical bodies. So that's two. And I would say believe in yourself. We come in this world alone. We live this world alone, and therefore there is nobody else than you to show up for yourself and believe in yourself every single day.
Yep. Sounds good. Arena, thanks so much. Where can the people find you?
So Academy is our website, and on the footer, it has all the social media links. We are literally on every single platform. So go to our website, check it out, and follow us on all the social media.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks for a wonderful conversation, Arena. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.